was sweet. Good morning. Thank you, Jonathan. That was beautiful. Welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. In this Unitarian Universalist congregation, that is going to fall for sure, we affirm that no matter who you are, who you love, or where you are on your journey, you are welcome with us here. For those of you joining us online, we're also so glad you made it. If you're visiting with us today, we invite you to sign our visitor's book, which is in the table in the back of the living room. And we invite you to stick around for lemonade, snacks, and conversations after the service. Members and friends, to help keep folks connected, remember to wear your name tags with your pronoun stickers. I am Gene Schaefer, and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm pleased to be with you today. Our worship leader is Susan Morrison-Hebel. Jonathan Hand is handling our music today, and the production is by Alex Dvorak. As you've hopefully figured out, we're in summer services mode, which means that most of our services until late August are created and led by the members of the UCH worship team. Also, our summer schedule is slightly different from what you may be used to. We'll begin our services at 10 o'clock a.m. or 10:05, and weather permitting, meet in the conversation circle on the east side of the church. We'd like to thank you for placing your phones in worship mode, but please do feel free to check in on social media and let folks know you are worshiping here today. And if you want to take pictures or video, you're free to do that as well. There's always a lot going on around in the church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday. If you would like to receive News and Notes, you can stop by the welcome table in the living room in the back of the church. We have some copies there, and you can also sign up for the email.
Good morning. Take a breath with me. Center yourself here in this place of safety and love. Take a breath with me. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together. I'm going to invite Jean up to read our chalice lighting words.
Our chalice lighting words are by Irene Glass. We kindle light and with it possibility, that we are more than the sum of our parts, that the world is more than a problem to solve, that illumination is more than a simple flame. We light the chalice and open to possibility. And now, if you can please join us in our opening hymn. It's 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Sing if you, or feel free to rise if you're able. We support this church in many ways. by bringing our diverse and enriching talents and care to this place and to each other, but also in very practical terms, including by offering financial support, so that we may meet in this lovely space. Please join me in saying our offertory words together. You'll find the words in your order of service. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with all the world. Thank you for your generosity.
We enter this space bringing with us joys, concerns, challenges, and blessings. We invite you to share in this sacred ritual. If you have something either weighing or dancing on your heart this morning, you are invited to come up and drop a pebble in the water. If you wish, you can say a name, a word, or a short phrase to share your intention. Pebbles may also be dropped in silence.
Good morning. My name's Kathy Fulser. If you've been in the church for a while, you know my parents, Jane and Dave Fulser. They have been members here for 50 plus years. And my sister and brother are in town, Liz from Massachusetts, Dave from North Carolina. They're here to celebrate Jane and Dave's 70th anniversary. And I also want to mention that my mother turned 93 yesterday. And we have a cake down in the coffee room, so we hope that you'll all join us for a little bit of celebration for Jane and Dave's 70th anniversary. Thank you.
I'm going to drop a pebble for William Deal, for Karen Janowski, who is home, by the way, recuperating from her stroke, for Jerry Shipton, and of course for our Pam Fodor, who is on her way home now from Oklahoma. Right. May we hold all of those joys and sorrows unspoken and spoken in our hearts today. At this time, I'm going to invite Ron and Norma Solberg up to share with us.
It is no mere coincidence that our affiliation with Unitarian Universalism was and is in the numbers. It's just so serendipitous that those numbers align with us and ours. It was 64 years ago, August 3rd, 1962, when we married, moved to St. Cloud, Minnesota to serve and work and join with other UUs. While we had been married in my traditional Lutheran church, and Norma had grown up in the Church of Christ, we both yearned for change. Really, a transformation much like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, to better reflect our mutual aspirations. It turns out 64 was key, as those numerals historically symbolize individually and together harmony, responsibility, and love. Furthermore, just a year earlier in 1961, Unitarians joined up with Universalists to establish the current UU denomination. Thus, 6 made up with 4, combining pragmatism with a commitment to charity.
With the addition of two sons, we moved on from Minnesota to Illinois and to you in the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. It was the friendship and support of fellow UUs there and you here that carried us through the tumultuous 60s and into the 21st. Pardon me, that gets me. We bend a knee, bowed head, and with eyes wide open in deepest gratitude to you, dear UCHers, for more than 50 years of irrevocable benevolence and inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now, please rise and bow to your spirit and join us in singing hymn number 131. The lyrics are in your order of service or in your hymnal. Love will guide us. More true now than ever. So the worship team gathered in May for our retreat to plan the summer, and I'd like to ask anybody who's on the worship team to raise your hand. Worship, you too. Worship team members include Jean, Julia, Anita, Ron, Elizabeth, Dave Lloyd, Tony, Linda Rio, Paula, and of course, Reverend Beth and me. So when we gathered in May for our retreat to plan the summer, we talked about what we love about the summer services. And just for those of you who don't know, that years ago we didn't even meet in the summer. So we're like delighted that we're bringing people together in the summer. We loved that these services give the worship team members time and space to explore questions that have been taking root in our minds, that these services offer us enriching opportunities to invite congregants to share their stories, that they give us a chance to worship together al fresco under the sheltering leafy canopy of the trees surrounding the conversation circle, as we did last week, or when weather is unpredictable. I can't tell you how many times the weather forecast changed for today, under the canopy of our tree of life here in our beloved sanctuary. A key purpose of the May retreat was to plan our summer church calendar to intentionally center our gatherings for the next 8 or so weeks in a focusing theme for the summer. So we talked, we brainstormed, we drank coffee, and we talked some more. And we talked a lot about where we are as a church, where we are as a faith, and where we are as a nation. And we kept coming back to the importance of safety in a spiritual community, as well as the need to nurture imagination that can lead to growth, action, and justice. We feel strongly as a group that these ideas are inherent in UU identity in general and in UCH in particular. And as we're inclined to do, we found meaning in metaphor, and we crafted this as our theme for the summer. It's a mouthful, so bear with me. A canopy of care, a community of safety and spiritual grounding, fostering radical imagination to live into UU values. You'll find that also on your orders of service. There is a lot to unpack here. The theme is at once simple and complex, and we feel it particularly represents what we as UCHers affirm and aspire to in the times in which we live. So as the summer unfolds, we hope that our services will provide thoughtful and engaging context in which to explore what it means to worship under the canopy of care that is UCH. Today, let's think about and hear about what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist, about what brought us to this church and this faith, about ways in which UCH in particular and Unitarian Universalism in general provide for each of us a kind of refuge, and also may strengthen our resolve to take responsibility for ourselves, for our community, and for the wider world. Now, you likely know that there are a lot of misconceptions about this faith. As Reverend Sue Phillips has articulated, folks often see Unitarian Universalism as a religion that assures that, quote, we may believe anything we want, but on the other hand, paradoxically, that we don't have to believe anything in particular. Well, that seems easy, doesn't it? On the surface, Unitarian Universalism seems to promise that you don't have to work so hard to adhere to a creed, don't have to conform to a seemingly ancient and inflexible dogma, don't have to have the right answer right now. Unitarian Universalism may seem kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free faith in the game of life. That's two different classic board games, but I think you get what I mean. Anyway, that's what a lot of folks think Unitarian Universalism is, a religion that is comfortable to claim because it seems to require little of its members, and a religion that is easy to overlook because, well, for one thing, according to the most generous statistics from the Public Religion Research Institute, less than 0.5% of the population worldwide identify as UUs. It's between 1 and 2 million people. And to further minimize the validity of Unitarian Universalism, ours is one of the 180 religious faiths that, as of a couple of weeks ago, the Department of Defense no longer officially recognizes. And yet, individually and collectively, we're here, aren't we? We're here. We're here with a rich history behind us and a future ahead that is ours for the making. For ours is a living tradition, one which recognizes that becoming Unitarian Universalist is a process that never really ends in a world that is constantly changing and forever in need of care. So we are here. We are here. One of the things I love about this faith is that each of us gravitates to it for our own distinct reasons, and we each arrive at this church carrying our own distinct experiences, as Ron and Norma have just illustrated for us. I am a bit of an anomaly, for I didn't come to UU intentionally, like so many people do. I came in through the back door, born into a family of Unitarians in a small city downstate. Quincy, my hometown, rests on a bluff on Illinois' westernmost point, and the Quincy Unitarian Church there was founded in 1839. It still kind of blows my mind. This does too. In the 1920s, a little bit more than 100 years ago, Frances Eldred, the woman who would become my grandmother, joined the church. It was just across and down the street from the house she grew up in. And she began her decades-long service as organist there. Her parents, my great-grandparents, joined after Frances did. And Frances and my grandfather, whose name was Paul Morrison, raised my father and my aunt in that church. And I was born in 1961, just a few months after the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America merged to become the Unitarian Universalist Association. I must acknowledge, though, that when I was growing up as a UU, I didn't really know what that meant. I would stutter and stammer when kids would ask me what we believed at my church and sort of blurt out, "Nobody tells us what to believe. We can believe whatever we want." And I came to understand my family's faith by what it wasn't. I didn't have to go to CCD like my Catholic friends, which was okay by me, but I also didn't get to wear that pretty white dress and gloves and lacy veil like a princess for First Communion. To be honest, I was really kind of jealous of my friends Mary and Ann, who were from a big Catholic family down the street. They would sometimes invite me to St. Peter's Church with them, which I loved. And my next door neighbor, another lifelong sister friend, also named Mary, attended a big fancy stone church with imposing red doors, St. John's Episcopal, which I found really intimidating. And I sometimes joined my friend Janice at the very serious and austere Presbyterian Church on 24th Street, where everyone, except for me, seemed to be able to quote from the Bible. And one hot summer night, when I was a young teenager, I was probably 13 or 14, I was particularly confused, but entranced, by the Baptist revival at my friend Nancy's church. You know what? I actually loved attending these churches with my friends, and my parents encouraged me to do so. In my 30s, my husband Jeff and I had the privilege to live for 4 years in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia. There we discovered a most extraordinary cultural and religious mosaic. Islam is the official religion there, and therefore it's the dominant faith. I remember very clearly, I can just hear in my mind the 5 times that you would hear the call to prayer for Islam throughout Kuala Lumpur every single day. It was haunting and beautiful. But in Malaysia, one also encounters substantial representations of other faith traditions, particularly Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and some ancient indigenous faiths, all of which we relished learning about. Our experiences in Southeast Asia, and frankly my experiences growing up, remind me of a passage from Houston Smith's book called The Religions of Man. He writes, "What a strange fellowship this is, God-seekers of every clime, lifting their voices in the most diverse ways imaginable. How does that sound to God? Like Bedlam? Or in some mysterious way, does it blend into harmony? We cannot know. All we can do is try to listen carefully and with full attention to each voice in turn as it raises to the divine. I have always loved my Quincy church, and I appreciate that what I felt and learned there gave me the freedom to look and listen for meaning beyond its doors, as a child in the Midwest and as an expat halfway around the world. For it is through these experiences, all of them, many of which did not directly involve me walking into a UU church, that I was becoming Unitarian Universalist. And so 28 years ago, when Jeff and I relocated to the Chicago area, we made it a priority to settle near a UU church where we could find refuge, and I could share several stories of when this church has offered me and my family refuge, but also where we could ask questions and could care for this congregation, for this faith. And each of us, each of you, comes to this place of worship, each of us a wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, with our own compelling stories of hope and despair, of giving and needing, of curiosity and care. I thank Ron and Norma for sharing their story with us, and I'd like now to invite up Anita Jinks to share some of her own reflections on this theme.
Good morning. Susan has asked us to limit our talk, our words, but I apologize beforehand. I might go a little bit longer, just a little bit. So the summer of 1957, Paul and I were married, and we were living in Milwaukee. And I was introduced to questioning religion back in the Congregational church that we were involved in. I was a teenager, and in our youth group, the question was, we discussed the divinity of Jesus, and I began to wonder and think and think. And it wasn't until I got into college that I met other people who were questioning. So when we got married in 1957, I wanted Paul to experience the Unitarian Church. And in Milwaukee, there was the first Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. It was a summer day. We got dressed. I was looking forward to having him in the church with me. We drove downtown to downtown Milwaukee, got there, walked up the steps, read the sign on the door, closed for the summer. I looked at Paul, I was so disappointed, and he said, "Closed for the summer, that's the church for me." So we went home, and we didn't attend until the church opened in the fall. The minister at that time was Reverend John Cyrus. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was excellent, and Paul was hooked, as was I. So when we moved down to Chicago, we found UCH here, and we started our 60 years of membership here in this church. And the phrase, "This is my church," became, "This is our family's church." And our daughters have been very active in it throughout. We had joined the many outside UU institutes like LGSA Camp, MUSA Camp, Star Island Camp, and our kids have developed friends, lifelong friends. That our oldest is 63, and she still is in contact with people that we met at Lake Geneva and in Missouri. I'm looking at Pat Miller, who is also a camper, and we have several others from this church who have joined us at camp. And if you want to explore Unitarianism and be with UUs, go to camp. That's where you'll find your lifelong friends. We got a card this week from a friend that we have known for 50 years. She no longer comes. It was lovely. She said, "Dear A&P," remember the grocery store, Anita and Paul. She said, "The lilies are sprouting. They're orange. The chicory is looking blue. It's beautiful. I'm writing because of camp. This is the time when we go to camp, and I won't be there because she's now confined to home. But to receive a card from a friend of 50 years that you no longer see is something that stays in your heart." I look at Liz Folser. I remember when she was young with Valerie, they had a quartet play for church several times here on the stage. And they're all in their 60s now. Can you believe it? It's unbelievable. So we joined during a time when the church was going through a very difficult time. And many people left. We stayed. And because many of the positions were vacant, we were recruited to fill them. So Paul and I was invited to be on the RE board, and Paul was invited to be on the finance committee. And for years, he was pledge drive leader, bookkeeper, fundraiser. And in the 80s, he and another member in our church, Elise Cade, who at 75 got her first paid job with Meadville Lombard, which was director of development. She and Paul traveled the Central Midwest District to run 14 fundraiser workshops. All the churches increased in their income. So we've had a long experience with UUs and this church and camps. We have visited 38 churches in the 60-plus years we've attended, and have had friendships from all over the country. And our activism continues. In the last 25 years, we've also attended Chautauqua Institute and joined their fellowship and have friends in Chautauqua. As I said, we've even been across the pond to UU churches. In Scotland, we visited the UU church in Edinburgh. It was just like our church. The order of service was almost identical, and they even invited us for coffee downstairs. We went to the church in Hawaii where Obama's grandparents were members. And we visited the UU church in Wales. Our kids were young, and one of our daughters, upon entering, said, "Oh, there's the flaming chalice," so she could identify with that. So it's been a journey, and we don't have probably don't have very many years left, but it's been a wonderful lifetime experience. And to meet new people here and all of you is wonderful. I can remember, I'm looking at Dave Mrazek and remember when his mother and I were on committees. And I look around and I see others of you who we have shared. Our activism continues in the lives of our daughters. Last Thursday, Valerie, our eldest at 63, received a letter from UU Meadville Lombard Seminary, congratulating her on being accepted into the doctoral program in social justice leadership. And she will begin, and she will start there this fall. So the flame continues. Oh, one thing. When we joined, one of the things that helped us join was the motto. And the motto was a poem by Edwin Markham. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. This is a pin that we had, that we used to sell, that expresses that poem. Thank you.
I mean, 60 years. Awesome. Thank you, Anita. Those are wonderful words. Now we'll hear from a couple of newer members. Jeff Pastak's going to come up and share.
Good morning. My name is Jeff. For those that don't know me, my husband also Jeff. We are both newer members of the church, so a little less to say, but I do want to thank Susan and Jean for giving me the opportunity to speak, because this place, while we've been here just a short while, has been very meaningful to us and our family. After the last election, I was feeling really defeated, and not just politically, but also personally. Feeling that the ideals that I had grown up with and nurtured of how I wanted to live my life, and how the kind of society that I wanted to be in and live with and grow up with and raise my children in, was falling through my fingertips, and I was feeling very alone. Growing up Roman Catholic and being who I am, going back to church never really seemed like a reality. But my husband, being him, did some research, and he was like, "Hey, why don't we take a look at this? Why don't we see what's going on with UU?" And at that point, I had very little understanding. If you guys have ever seen us, we come in guns blazing with our kids. They're always high energy throughout the time that they're here and the rest of the day. And we are, we're pretty conspicuous, right? We're two guys with two kids, and that can be very terrifying in new spaces, knowing how that's going to be received. And something that immediately was very apparent from our first time here was this canopy of care, and the ability for us to let down our guard and just be ourselves, and that being okay. It's an incredibly powerful feeling, and to be able to bring our children into a community where the values that we care about, the values about justice, about that diversity matters, is important and is a strength. The fact that we may not always agree all the time, but that we come from a place of love and understanding and basic value of one another's humanity. That's the kind of environment that we want them to grow in. and we feel that this is a place where they can be nurtured. And back to my own feelings, being able to fill my cup at least once a week, get a sense of normalcy, get a sense of I'm not insane for feeling this way, I'm not insane for wanting things to be better. At the same time, I think as much as this has been a refuge for myself and my family, it also requires that we go beyond just filling our cup and revalidating our values and moving towards action. And so I've been inspired by Reverend Beth's trips to Broadview, from our speaker from UUANI, from research that I've done on Side with Love. And there's opportunities here. The church is always doing something. There's so many wonderful committees that are doing such powerful work that I want to continue being a part of, and I encourage you all as well. Because there's more than just here. There's still that same world that left me defeated is still out there, and it requires a community. So whether that's writing postcards to encourage voters to vote, whether that's coming August 1st and joining the protests, whether it's just being here and being open to all of the different things that the church is doing, I feel it has value. And I feel that it can lead us to imagine something better as a community than I could just do by myself. And that's really what I love about coming here every week, is being reminded that there is power in this and just being. So, thank you.
I'd next like to invite up Abby Schmidt, who is just one of our other members that has joined us this year.
Like Jeff, we're still in the beginning chapters of writing our story here, so I'll keep mine short. When I was just a few months old, I was baptized into a Catholic church. Growing up every Sunday meant Sunday school and Mass, Wednesday evenings, CCD. If you asked me then, I would have told you that I'd marry Catholic and I'd die Catholic. Well, life had other plans for me. When I joined the Army, I spent 3 weeks waiting to begin basic training. A small group of us started visiting different churches on Sundays. We tried Catholic and Methodist and Lutheran. We were just looking for a place to get together, but what we really found was just each other in a community. Then September 11th happened. On the morning we were supposed to begin basic training, our country came under attack. Our all-female platoon was scattered and integrated into different training companies. Before we split, we made a promise that every Sunday we'd meet back at the Lutheran church, not because we'd all become Lutheran, but because they had coffee and cookies, and a woman who played the piano and gave the best hugs that reminded us all of home. Less than 2 years later, I was deployed to Iraq. Once again, church became an anchor. No matter the denomination, gathering as often as war would allow reminded me that I wasn't carrying the weight of the world alone. It gave me purpose, strength, and a community that helped me keep going, even in some really icky, hard times. When I came home, I was deeply broken. While attending a Catholic college in Madison, Wisconsin, I wandered into a Unitarian Universalist congregation. For the first time, I found a faith community where my questions were welcome, where my justice wasn't just talked about, but lived, and where I felt accepted exactly as I was. That Sunday ritual has followed my husband Chris and me from Madison to Milwaukee to Oak Park, and now here to UCH. For me, church has never been about finding all the right answers. It's been about finding people who remind me who I want to be. That's what refuge has always meant in my life. And that's also where responsibility begins. When you've been cared for by a community, you can't help but want to become part of the care for someone else. That's what I see here at UCH. People who love generously, who work for justice, who welcome others, and who remind one another that every day is a gift. I'm grateful to have found another place that feels like home, and all of you.
Thank you, Abby. And finally, we're going to hear from Jean.
Thank you. So I've been a member for about 10 years, so not quite new, definitely not as much of a veteran. I think the kids would say I'm mid. I also grew up Catholic, so there's a little bit of a theme here. And I think a lot of people know that. I've talked about it before. I know Susan knows that. She said that if this takes longer than 3 minutes, she's going to hit me with a ruler. So I'll try to keep this short. In my teenage years, somewhere along the line, I became humanist. And I know this because my mom told me. I actually really enjoyed being Catholic throughout much of my childhood and even into my 20s. To be honest with you, I wanted to be a priest for a real long time, but God had other vocations for me, which is a very Catholic way of saying that somewhere along the line I discovered girls. So that was that, but I still really love being Catholic, and I love talking to my mom about religion. And one time I told her that I thought that God gave us the gift of empathy. He gave us the gift of logic. We're obviously able to do great things, and maybe we should use those gifts to take care of each other and the earth, and basically just solve our own problems, you know? God has a lot on his plate. He doesn't need all of our drama. And she told me that that was humanist. And lovingly, but in no uncertain terms, humanism is not Catholic. So I kind of filed that away and, you know, things I won't talk about with mom anymore, and went along with my life. I eventually left the Catholic Church, I really hate to like yuck anybody's yum, but there's some holes in the story, right? And so when I decided I didn't want to be Catholic anymore, like other Christian faiths weren't really an option. And I spent a lot of time kind of out in the wilderness, but I missed it. I really did. So when I met my future wife, Tiffany, she asked me after a little while if she wanted me to come to church with her. And she said she really liked it. It kind of wrapped up the week. It was a nice little thing. And to be honest with you, I really miss like the ritual and the community of going to church. So I said yes. And I came to a couple services, and she said, you know, do you want to come to the solstice celebration that we're having? And I said, that sounds great. I love space. And so we met over in the Joshi Chapel, and it was literally a drum circle where we were praying to like the spirit of the north and the spirit of the south. And I was sitting there like, what did I get myself into? But I really loved it, and the community was definitely there. And one thing that I also really loved is I grew up thinking, and this is another thing I didn't talk with mom about, that you can learn something from every single religion. So if you go to Joshi Chapel, if you haven't seen them in a while, they have the portraits of the 6 largest world religions. Of course, the 3 Judeo-Christian ones, which includes Islam, and then Muslim, Hinduism, and Confucianism. What was the 6th one? So if you haven't seen that, go over and take a look. And they used to be hanging up on the wall, kind of like Unitarian Stations of the Cross. But at some point in time, they went away. But what really kept me coming back to the church was this humanist tint, you know, this humanist ideal. And I felt like for the first time in my life, I was in a place of worship that spoke like the language that I wanted to speak out into the world. And it wasn't just, hurrah, people are awesome, you know, be excellent to each other. Part of being under a canopy is taking care of that canopy, and Jeff talked about this. And it really gives us not only the ability to survive in this world, but it instills upon us the responsibility to go out and make it better. And that was something that I always very strongly believed is all of our responsibilities. And it's just nice to be in a place where we have other people who feel the same way. And so I kept coming back. Again, it's been 10 years. My wife unfortunately isn't here, but she assured me that she'll apologize the next time she sees you. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for allowing me to speak. Thank you everybody for being my family, for being my community. And most importantly, thank you for driving me to try to be a better person and affect the change in the world that I want to see. Because sometimes it's really easy to just sit back and say, you know, there's not really much I can do. And it really helps to come to a place that reminds you that sometimes you have to plant a tree whose shade you will never sit in. So thank you very much.
These are Jean's notes. How awesome. I am struck by how circuitous our routes have been to arrive here together, and yet here we are together. You all have conveyed such rich and varied stories, such personal stories, from which we all may find illumination and connection. And I can't help but think that these narratives reflect UU values of transformation, pluralism, generosity, interdependence, equity, justice, and at the center, love. I hope these stories have ignited in all of you an eagerness not only to listen, but also to reflect on and share, perhaps downstairs over coffee, lemonade, snacks, your own journeys of becoming UU. I'll invite Jean up to extinguish the chalice for us now. The words are in your order of service, and you probably know them by heart. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Please rise, embody your spirit, and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 118, This Little Light of Mine. Our closing words have been attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in the giving that we receive, and in the pardoning that we are pardoned. Thus ends our worship service this Sunday morning. Thus begins our service to the wider world.